Okay, so Raghav Chadda, respond to Dr. Ghude, because, it's very convenient for the city walas to say it's the farm folk who are at fault. He says this is down to dryness in the air, change in weather patterns, wind directions as well. And all of that is what is accounting for the sharp spurt. It's not just the farm fires. It's very easy for your government and for most people watching on an English news television station at this time to say, oh, it's not really our fault, the Kisan jo hai na, they don't do their job. The reality is, it's not just the farmers who are to blame according to the Safar study.
Well, first of all, you don't have to blame the farmers at all. The only people who are to be blamed are those in government, the political executive. And the political executive of Punjab and Haryana have miserably failed the farmer. Every year, they promise super seeders, happy seeders and stuff like that. And even a low-hanging fruit like cash incentive of 100 rupees per quintal will be offered to the farmer. And he will be asked not to, he'll be incentivized to not burn the stubble. But nothing of such manner is done on the ground, as your investigation has already pointed out. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an environmentalist. I may not understand wind patterns as the learned speaker on the show does. But with my limited understanding as a lay person, I can certainly say that if on the 15th of September, the AQI in Delhi was good, and on the 15th of October, the AQI is severe, then certainly in the span of 30 days, industrial activity, the plying of cars and other local
But this is logical, Dr. Ghude. It's not as if there are more people out on the road suddenly, or that there's more industry, or the power plants are emitting more emission. So,
we have, in fact, may I just, Rahul, point out?
1 second, can you speak?
We have, in fact, shut, I'm supplementing your argument, Rahul. We have, in fact, shut the thermal power plants. We have, in fact, undertaken several activities that were on the 15th of September contributing towards the air pollution levels.
Okay, let Dr. Ghude respond to that, please.
So fact is that we already have a very high pollution in Delhi, but because of very high ventilation coefficient, very high wind speed, the pollution is getting dispersed vertically and horizontally, so you get less amount of pollution at surface where we actually live. But when the weather pattern changes, the high amount of pollution gets trapped in that local area, and that actually rises your AQI. So you cannot say that it is not a Delhi, because many of the earlier studies from our institution or from other institutions, so 60 to 70% of pollution in Delhi is caused by its own sources.
So at this time, over the past 5 days, how much of the farm fire emission is responsible for North Indian pollution or in a city like Delhi? Dr. Ghude?
So it was like less than 7%.
Less than 7%. So you're saying of all the pollution we're dealing with, only 7% is because of these farm fires, Vimlendu Ja. Whereas if you look at a lot of the commentary, it would seem very conveniently that because these farms are on fire, which is why we are choking, the government's doing nothing about getting the farmers to stop burning the stubble, which is why city walas are having to pay the price. But the doctor says it's only 7%.
Doctor is absolutely right, Rahul, because, the visible pollution creates a political convenience for our political representatives to keep blaming everyone else. And this entire bizarre pseudo-science logic that Raghav Chadda was presenting, that, well, last month the AQI was low, and why is the AQI now better? In the month of January, there's no stubble burning, but then why is the AQI 300, 350? Or in the month of June, there's no stubble burning that is happening. Why is the AQI 250 and 300 or 400? So please understand, there's a scientist on the panel, and there's a science, therefore it says that, there's no wind. Delhi's dispersing capacity is low right now, because of which the pollution gets trapped. And as rightly, for the first time, I would like to agree with what Prakash Javadekar said and Safar said today, that, on some days air pollution could actually reach 40%, but last couple of days, it's only 3% because there's low wind. Please understand that, we will be able to solve this problem when this stupid, arrogant grandstanding that our political parties do, when they keep blaming the other for their own failure.
Chadda, respond to Vimlendu and Dr. Ghude. Only 7% of the pollution at this time is coming from the farm fires. The rest of it is on your watch, and you need to deal with and tell us and give a more convincing answer on what you're doing. And you can't just say, we are purchasing these low-floor buses on priority. It's now been 6 years and nothing's happened, and that's on your watch, sir.
Right. So first of all, there isn't any data of real-time source apportionment of air pollution that exists in the city of Delhi at this point in time. Number one. Number two, yes, there are several bodies that do undertake this exercise from time to time and publish figures. Like Safar, which the previous speaker has pointed out. Safar put out, which is a body, a watchdog of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, put out a report last year saying that 46%, up to 46% of Delhi's air pollution is because of stubble burning in the months of October and November. That was pointed out by no less than the union government's own watchdog. Now, I have already made my point very clear, Rahul, that I am not a scientist. I may not understand wind patterns, but just how, as your reporter who's traveled extensively in Punjab can point out that it's merely because of stubble burning that AQI has gone from good to bad and bad to worse. I am not for one denying that there are no local factors that need to be dealt with. Of course, there are local factors that need to be dealt with, and we are dealing with them.